Seems so. All right, let's kick this off. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. This is our second episode. It's called Chaos, Corruption, and Racing. We have Terex here as our special guest, our guest star, if you will. And it's Colby Cheese again, along with Hegemony, and then myself, Xenocide. Today, we each have our own segments we're going to discuss. They're 20 segments each. And at the very end, we have a 30-minute live Q&A session. At any point in time during this podcast, if you guys want to shoot off questions directed at us or at all of us in general, you can go ahead and type it in chat, and we will gladly, copy and paste it into a Google Doc and ask them later at the end. Also, thanks for tuning in. I would like to thank Twitch TV for allowing this kind of thing to happen. It's a good website for getting communities built together, advertising games, and doing podcasts like this. So thanks, Twitch. Also, I would like to thank GGG. They were nice enough to donate 8 microtransaction packs for the viewers. They're a very good company when it comes to giving back to the community as well as providing gameplay. They care more about the quality of the game rather than the dollar sign. So let's all give GGG a thanks. And lastly, I would like to thank all of you, the viewers, for tuning in. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here. So thank you again. So to kick off the podcast, let's do establish some rapport here. Colby, what are you most known for? And tell us what you're going to talk about today.
Well, lately I'm most known for dying, which is not what I want to be known for. But no, I do a lot of YouTube videos. I try to help out players. I do a lot of build theory crafting. So when people come over to my stream, I've got a lot of tools for them to, pick up different builds and stuff like that. So that's essentially what I am trying to go for is just being like a resource for the community to come to and help them out with different builds and learn more about the game and become a better player as a whole. So that's kind of what I go for. And
what are you going to be discussing today?
So today I'm going to be talking about kind of my experiences so far in Invasion, what I've learned, and some of the different the characters and encounters that I've had, as well as going over and I've tried out Ambush a bit, and then talk about some of the my thoughts on like the risk versus reward and both Ambush and the Invasion League on the the things that they've added in there, and then I was also going to do a little bit of talk about the Leech and how that's kind of changed up the way some builds work out as well.
Awesome, man. All right, so next we got Hegemony. Tell us about yourself, what you're going to be talking about today, and what are you most known for?
Well, I'm a 30-year-old guy playing PoE since February of last year. I'm known for being very helpful to the community and teaching people how to earn currency and play this game legitimately without having to cheat or just giving them the edge that they need to be successful in this game. And today I'll be discussing corrupted gems, corrupting items in general, and the Atziri fight. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. All right, so next we have Terex. I'm sure most of you know him. Apparently he's sexier than Mano. Shots fired. So,
ouch.
Terex, what do you do, and what are you most known for, and what are you going to talk about today?
Lately, I've been streaming a lot of PoE. I put most of my time into streaming Path of Exile lately, and I'm mostly known for streaming races and helping out with anything to do with races, especially halfway through Season 6 is when I started streaming, and I've just done my best to share all the race knowledge I have and bring in as many new people into racing as I can to help out, make it a bit more enjoyable getting into racing, because it can be pretty scary and overwhelming at first. So just doing my best to help out with anything to do with racing.
Awesome. So it's safe to assume that you're going to be discussing racing today then?
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about races and how they're different from normally playing the game, maybe some stronger, better builds.
Sweet. All right, and then last it's me. My name is Zeno. I'm most known for making crazy builds work. I try my best to provide the community something to stray away from the typical flavor of the month builds. And I'm most known for, if you guys have any builds, you come by to my stream and I help you out. I like to just do segments where I review builds. That's what I'm most known for. I also do 24-hour broadcasts. Today I'll be discussing my take on chaos damage dealt by players, as well as some alternatives that we can hopefully provide GGG to do more direct damage chaos rather than just degen chaos damage. All right. So to kick off things, now that everybody's discussed who they are and what they do, Colby Cheese, take the reins and discuss what you're going to be doing today.
Yeah, sure, man. So, so I was just like I said, I wanted to mostly talk about kind of some of my experiences after playing Invasion for a while, and in terms of the, the difficulty as well as my thoughts on like the risk versus reward. So we've had, what is this, like 2 weeks now, coming into close to 3 weeks or something like that. Is that right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, coming up close to that. All right, so so a lot of people are getting up there, and we're still getting tons of deaths. Obviously, Invasion League is extremely terrifying, and I've seen so many people, with problems with trying to get up there, and they keep dying. So this league is pretty much, it seems like, all about re-rolling and stuff like that. People are having a lot of trouble getting back to the cap on level, but what I've learned is just a lot of information about the particular fight. So one of my biggest problems so far, which I thought was really funny, was just dying to the same boss over and over because I didn't understand how she worked. And I think that I like to compare it to playing Dark Souls, where I think that once you have knowledge of how certain things work, you're going to be a lot better at the game. So in comparing that, whenever I first started playing Dark Souls, I was really bad at it. But after I learned the different fights and what the enemies do, it became a lot easier. And I think that really applies a lot to Invasion as well, and also to a lesser extent Ambush, since you don't have to worry about re-rolling. But definitely for Invasion, so you have to watch out what each boss does, and what can you do to prepare yourself for those fights. So now that the Bringer Brain Chaska, she's going to be, she killed me like 4 or 5 times, right? So at first I thought that I could dodge her projectiles, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna prepare for this boss. I'm gonna have max Ondar's evasion and all this crazy stuff, and I went in there and boom, she like one shot me. I was like, oh, okay, it's a spell, it's and I thought it was like half chaos. Everyone thought it was half chaos, but that's not the case. You can use Immortal Call now. So essentially, you basically learn the zones to kind of stick away from. Used to, I would just run into piety farming right away.
Oh, yeah.
But there's so many dangerous mobs if you go into piety, so you essentially can't go farm piety now until you've it's safer to go into mats now, and so it's kind of like the meta shifted just a little bit. At least from my experience, it's either like go docks into maps or something like that, rather than go into piety if you're not prepared for that Shaska fight. Essentially, that's what I'm most afraid of, is what I found. And then also you've got the Chaos Leaper. Chaos damage seems to be such a huge thing with some of these bosses. Before, if you didn't have Chaos Resist, you're like, not a big deal. I'll just be careful when I go to the sewers maps and stuff like that. But now you have to worry about getting one shot by this Chaos guy who jumps on your head, and you have to worry about some of this stuff with the Desecrate. Like, you got the dog that does the Chaos damage. You've got the whatever that Vaal guy is that puts Desecrate down and can wipe you pretty quickly. So overall, there's a lot more stuff to worry about. You have to worry about maxing out all your resistances at all the times, because you don't know when you're going to run into. Before it was in Nemesis, all you had to worry about was like getting exploded by a volatile. So you're like, okay, I got to cap resist, but if I don't have them capped, then it's okay because volatile. But now you have to worry about stuff like Rima, and so essentially, what I've learned in Invasion now is that once you learn which bosses are in each zone, since there are like 3 or 4 bosses that can spawn in each zone, you can kind of more prepare yourself. Because before we had the thought of like, well, there's no way of knowing which boss is going to spawn, so there's no way to prepare yourself. But now we know, like, okay, there's certain bosses in each zone, so we can't take ourselves to those zones. And so overall, I think that Invasion just comes down to knowledge.
It's almost like
preparing yourself.
Items like Ming's Heart, they're already extremely expensive and solid. Now in like Invasion, they're ridiculous. That Chaos Res is just nuts.
Yeah, I'm definitely favoring Chaos Res. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was just saying it's nice that you mentioned that, but there's also people with that Ming's Heart Race reward that just recently they were able
Oh
to pull out
yeah.
and use that.
Yeah,
So that's
Yeah.
definitely added a huge flavor to the economy.
Terry over here probably drooling
super
at that thing.
useful.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've got the Death
It's
Rush,
a
but
nice
I
reward.
didn't actually get the Ring's Heart because like, oh, I'll never use that, and now I'm
Oh,
like,
gee. Yep.
So much
yeah.
chaos rest from one item.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So now that you talked about how you felt about invasion, let's hear about your experiences with ambush so far.
So yeah, after dying on my mortal melee character, which immortal, it used a mortal call, and I made the mistake of if you cast mortal call twice, then you actually reset the cooldown. You reset the actual timer on it, and it goes back to 1 second for mortal call. I had it up to like 17 seconds, so I was immune to most physical. I was taking a huge pack and reset it, die, and I was like, all right, fine. I need to take a break from invasion for just a little bit. Everyone voted that I go play
Amen.
an ambush character, so I made an animate weapon summoner, which is really fun and extremely powerful. I don't know if anyone knows about it. Maybe some people are starting to hear about it, but it's a really strong build, and so I did that. And I thought that the chests would actually be a joke, but I died a lot to those chests, just clicking on them and then they like freeze you in place with a storm herald on top of you, or like a bunch of fire dogs jump out and just, take you out right away. So I had a lot of fun. Like it was a little bit more enjoyable than I thought it would be, just in terms of like, holy crap, well, what really happened was after a few deaths, I was like, man, I would like to see these chests in the actual hardcore leagues because I can only imagine there's going to be some funny rip videos because people don't really post rip videos from Ambush League, right?
No, not at all. But
But
those chests are scary, man.
yeah, like I want to see death videos of people dying to chests, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna click it, and then just like
Just
Rex. Like
blowing
I've
up
got,
after the
I posted a
clicking
few of the death videos of mine, and they were funny because I wasn't trying to die. Obviously, I don't want to lose XP and have to run
Nope.
back. Yeah, so the
Yes.
chests themselves are going to be really exciting whenever we have the. I'm pretty sure they're going to do another one, like the Invasion Ambush race, the 1 week.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to. It's going to be crazy the amount of rips in that race. I know. So overall, I did want to talk about the risk versus reward in the league. So I talked a lot about like just learning the fights, and I think a lot of people are getting a little bit better at learning. But essentially, they said they changed like the rarity on some of the bosses, but I still don't see a lot of benefit from spending the time killing these bosses. If you can kill them very quickly, if you have a build, or if you find a boss that's like easy to kill, sure, that's all right. But overall, it feels like these bosses they literally feel like bosses. Like they have way more life, way more resistances, and obviously very dangerous to fight. So more often than not, I'm still skipping them. Even in maps, a lot of times I'm just running past,
Do
which I
you
don't like to do.
do you think
What was that?
the option of giving a guaranteed rare would actually be a good idea? We were mentioning that earlier. Like have every invasion boss have a guaranteed one yellow drop minimum. Is that a good idea?
I think it would be really cool to have something of that nature, that you can expect some kind of. I don't think it would necessarily need to be just like one rare, but if you had something like the ambush boxes, like the bosses have a chance to drop certain types of items or more, or maybe they,
Oh
they have a
yeah.
chance to drop like 5 or 6 rings, and they could be rares if you have enough rarity. Maybe like 4 of them will be rares. That would be awesome, right?
Like add
Uh,
the prefix to the boss like arcanist or chemist, something like
yeah,
that.
it can drop.
That would be
Will
really
drop
cool.
extra. Yeah, just why not throw something like that on there? And I think that would be pretty awesome in order to give you like, oh, I have to kill this boss because it's gonna drop. It's gonna drop like a couple of level gems or whatever. Like that would be crazy.
That would be
Just the
really
same thing
awesome.
with ambush. I think they try and split up the ambush and stuff, and they do the testing, but um, overall, the risk versus reward, I don't think is really there. The ambush league makes it fun to click these chests. Like some of these chests, you like, oh, that's probably gonna kill me, but I wanna get that loot. So you click that chest, and it's fun. You're like, ah. But with invasion, it's like, oh man, get away from me. I don't want to fight that. You're not. There's nothing useful here. Like, what's the point? Even with like exiles are you want to kill those because they have the chance to drop all these rings, an amulet, and a belt, and so they're gonna drop all these items. They may be rare, they may not be, but the actual invasion bosses are just like, oh, they have rarity, so like maybe they'll drop a few random rares that are probably not gonna be that good.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing that I found lacking in terms of the reward versus how hard those bosses are.
Yesterday, I was doing a 24-hour ambush, just like an event, and I was like, oh, I'll give ambush a full-on try, and I lackadaisically clicked on a box, and it was chance to freeze, poison clouds, and I was in Merc
Yeah.
with -60, insta rip. I didn't even pay attention, but those
Yeah.
boxes are creepy, man.
Death
They could
trap.
just
Yeah.
see you later.
I've actually clicked them on accident, like when I'm trying to ID them. Like if I'm trying to re-roll it, like you can't hold shift, and then like I'll unclick and say poop, and I like accidentally click it before I ID it, and it's like poof, it's like a really bad roll. I'm like, I didn't mean to do that.
I
So-
think they need to make it so you could shift click, so that way you don't run
Yeah,
up and
that's what I was
accidentally
trying. I was
click
just
it.
trying to like shift click alterations, and then it wouldn't work, so I like let go of it and then clicked it, and I was like, poof,
Yeah.
and died.
Yep.
I had a clip on my
That's
YouTube.
brutal.
Yeah, I had a clip on YouTube where I clicked it and I died, and then as I'm running back, I noticed that there was a Wings of Entropy that I had missed. I was like, oh,
Whoa.
I'm okay with this death.
It's a nice surprise.
Yeah, to my surprise, I had missed it because with animate summoners, like you're just running around while your summons are back there killing stuff, so you drop some loot sometimes. I guess the last thing I was going to talk about is I feel like a pretty big change in how you're going to play certain classes now. Like you would normally rely on like having like 2% life leech on a lot of builds that are really low on mana, and you can get off like 2 or 3 attacks, and maybe doing like double strike or even with an AOE type spell with life leech. So I noticed Flame Blast, for example, I had some life leech from fire with some corrupted items, but whenever I charged up my Flame Blast and hit a mob, I would get like 100 life back because you can't life leech on groups anymore. So I'm like, man, they really made it difficult
Mhm.
to to actually get meaningful leech
Especially as a
from
cap.
any build that's not just like if you're not just heavy striking with no multi strike or something. Like I had no leech problems with my heavy striker, but on every other character that's doing AOE damage, it's like, what does life leech do anymore? Does it even work? Like it's nothing. And mana leech is the same way. Like my buddy was doing a spectral throw, and you used to be able to do spectral throw just fine with a little bit of mana leech and maybe just a little bit of regen, depending on your attack speed, anyways. And now she has to throw on blood magic. She's no way she can do it with
Yep.
the leech with the way it works now. So I think basically this makes it so that you pretty much have to design your builds around using mana regen. Almost. But a lot of them can't even support that without EB anyway. So it's like you're doing blood magic gem or you're going EB. Because
I'm currently doing an ice shot shadow, and I'm using soul siphon. Soul siphon with clarity on health. It's like the only way I could do it without using blood magic. It's
soul siphon,
ridiculous.
and then you have to run into the problem of fighting a boss where
Yep.
it's like there's just one mob to attack. So what are you gonna
Exactly.
siphon off of, right?
And that's why I have clarity on health. It's like reserving 300 my health. But again, that's ambush. It's a completely different thing. Life
That
on
makes
hit
sense.
got a huge buff. Life leech spellcasters, they got the
Yeah.
biggest hit. Oh
Well,
my
I wish
God.
they would have left. I'm okay. I'm sort of okay with the life lead, but the mana. I wish they would. If they're not gonna add like some kind of mana on hit, like what are you
Life
gonna do,
leech
right?
change. And
Yeah,
like
the
Vaal
leech-
pack nerf is pretty bad for ES.
It's pretty rough, yeah. Exactly for ES especially.
CI
You have
just
to,
took
but
a
you have to
big hit.
have like so much life lead. I mean, you can still do it, but it's not gonna be near as effective as it was before. So
Yeah, I definitely think
um,
mana on hit something.
overall,
that-
it just makes me change my perspective on what builds I want to do. I'm like, okay, all my builds now rely on EB. It's like that's all I want to do. I
That's
don't
what I
even
do.
want to mess with Leech at all. I just want to have like, and I'm taking. What I've done now is I've been taking those flash nodes from the Witch Tree, like on a lot of my characters, because of that buff from the Witch Tree with the 12/12, the 12 life, 12 mana node, and then that 30% on flask is actually pretty good because it not only affects your life, it does the mana potions, does quicksilvers, does all that stuff. 30% is pretty huge.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think that it just basically buffed those nodes essentially, if you think about it.
Alrighty. So now that you heard Colby's ideas behind Leech, life on hit, or how he feels about it, and you heard his discussion about Invasion Ambush, let's talk about the next thing that was introduced into this patch that was very important is the Vaal orb and corruption in general. What are your experiences with that, Hedgie? Let's hear it.
So overall, is my mic okay? Some people are saying I'm kind of low.
Yeah, you're pretty quiet. But I can hear you loud and clear now.
All right, I'll try to speak up. recently I did two couple-hour segments where I just took a bunch of Veil orbs and I started corrupting a bunch of items, mainly some uniques that weren't all too expensive, not like none of my legacy uniques, because I don't feel like the risk reward, you know, I will sit here and continue to watch a lot of other players ruin and completely, you know, vendor status their legacy items, and my items will continue to go up in price. But overall, it was a very good experience. It's a lot like the Las Vegas feel. I like how the design of whether you get quality versus the level, and with the chance of removing quality and removing a level. So I think I did around 60 gems, 2020s, and I got 8 gems that de-leveled, and de-leveling is not so bad. I mean, it can get back to where it once was, the 2020. So it takes a little bit of time. What really is a blow is when you get -10 quality or -7. That is pretty
That's
brutal
rough.
because that thing will never
Can't get that
be,
back.
Yep.
yeah, it's really disheartening. And I also had an experience where I Veil Orbed a Lightning Warp, 2020 Lightning Warp, and it made the Veil version of that, which was completely worthless. I got so
Oh
angry. I was like,
no.
Get
I can't
destroyed.
even use this anymore. It's not like it's de-leveled or anything. It's a completely different ability. And I sat there for about a good 5 minutes just thinking of when would I ever want to use something like this. It was just, one of those very lackluster Veil Orbs. I hope they do something different or make it, very low charge that you can use it a lot or something like that. But yeah, I went over in a couple of those VODs and I discussed, which gems you're actually looking for the quality and which ones you're actually looking for the plus level, because they're not all the same. There are benefits to getting, the +3 versus the +1 level. Um, Also, I felt doing it on weapons was kind of lackluster because there's not many mods that you would want. The best one by far, to me, in my opinion, is the +1 to 2 melee range as an implicit. Granted, a lot of these weapons that already have, pretty decent implicits, whether it be crit accuracy, stun duration, if you do want something like that, like a stun lock build. But, axes, they don't have any implicits. So it's rolling the dice on how much you want to spend, as far as like how expensive your weapon is. Um, Also, what's also nice about this new Veil Orb and the crafting system is that it allows you to make rings with great affixes, prefixes and suffixes, but the implicits are garbage and completely useless. And I'm referring more
Iron
so
ring.
with like caster rings. Yeah, caster rings with on an iron implicit. You're not going to do anything with that physical. You might as well get something cool like resist or leech, or anything could be better than that 1 to 4 fizz. So that's also unique. Doing it on studded belts, cloth belts, those are also, I was able to turn
Yeah.
some of my studded and cloth belts into amazing, increased area, or I'm so
Skill
glad that I
effects.
saved. Yeah, skill effects are also very good.
I
Endurance
got that
charge,
on
power
my
charge,
my
momentum
Modern.
charge.
Can't
Yeah,
you get
it's
trap
it's
on
sick.
belts too?
Yep.
Additional trap?
Oh,
Yes.
speaking of that, I saw a couple people that corrupted their unique unset ring,
Wow.
which
So
does
that
absolutely
removed the
nothing for it,
socket.
by the way. Because if it re-rolls the implicit, it no longer has a socket on it.
Why would you ever?
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just funny. Like I've seen some people do some stuff
That is pretty
like Vaal
funny.
orbiting stuff with no like quality or one socket, and it's like people are using these things without thinking about it. They're just like, oh, Vaal orb,
Yesterday I got
hello.
15% avoidance to shock on my Meginord. Oh, I'll take that.
Um.
Oh,
the-
that's good.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to say like there was like a 1 in 10 chance that the like I would, for me it seemed like 1 in a 10 chance that it would actually re-roll the item, and when it re-rolls the item, it gives you 6 properties guaranteed. And I must say I did re-roll a bunch of stuff that became like disgustingly good, like with mana, ES, armor wed, and like resist. They were just insane belts. Like they were way better than what they were previously. So I'm thinking that if you have a bunch of these Veil orbs and you are doing high level maps and you get a rare that's not too great, or it's got completely trash stats and you have plenty of belts for the Regal recipe or the Chaos recipe, it may be worth, risking that Veil Orb to get something really, really good, and that'll like re-roll into, if it's a 1 in 10 chance to get a sick belt, I think it probably is worth it. So I think especially in Invasion, we'll start to see a trend where Veil Orbs will go back up in price. I know that in Standard it's like 3-to-1 Chaos, and then in Invasion it's currently less than a Chaos. But I think we'll see a shift in that once people realize, what you can do with just the random rares that don't roll properly in high-end maps. The +1 to all stats on gloves and boots are insane. That's definitely one of the ones you want to go for, and I myself want to do it on a pair of Rainbow Strides. However, I only have 3 legacy ones, and I think I'm only just going to buy up a bunch of new ones to see if I can actually get it. I did get +1 all resist on or max resist on my Lazwar. It was pretty sick. One of the strongest items in my opinion. And I think overall as a game design, it takes it to like another level of what perfect means. Perfect. It gets you on that emotional roller coaster. I mean, you have a goal. You're like, give me that +3 or give me that +1. You have that goal, and the highs and lows are pretty extreme. I think it's a good balance, and that's overall it's good game design. It makes it fun, even though it's a lot of risk and a lot of reward. But
I saw.
I would suggest.
Oh, go ahead, Hedgie.
Yeah, I would suggest pay attention. Go look at the mod compendium on the wiki, and you can see the mods and sort by what you can roll and what will be worth it and what what's not worth it. But hopefully some of the stats that I threw out give you some perspective on whether or not you want to take that risk or not. Go ahead, Zeno.
I'm sure all of you know how I feel about the Sharkskin Blood Dance boots. They're so cheap, they're easy to 4-link, and if you get +1 frenzy charges on that, totally worth buying a bunch of them and keep rolling until you get that +1 frenzy. That would be insane.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Very cheap, unique. And then you could just get Vaal orbs and Invasion very cheap, and then roll the dice till you get that +1 frenzy.
That's pretty cool today, actually. I love it on the leveling these, like the bow, Death Harp. If you get an extra arrow on that sucker, oh my god, you have LMP already right
and
away.
the quiver.
You can use like lightning arrow without LMP.
I win and
and the quiver. You get that plus the quiver. You do a barrage build with point blank. Boom.
Yep, win.
There you go. That's what I was planning on doing eventually.
I definitely spent like a good time on all my quiver stashes, and the old implicits are outdated. They're like greatly overshadowed by the new quivers, so might as well try to beef them up as much as you can. So my next section, I wanted to go in with the Atziri kill and my experience with that fight on my Batman Wanderer as CI. Overall, I felt like as CI on my Batman Wanderer, it was doable. It was very doable, and it was kind of rough. I mean, I do have very, very good gear. The fights are definitely tuned, in one way or another, like extreme physical or extreme elemental. You can be better prepared for it. There's a lot more min-maxing I can do with my build or my current gear setup to make those fights easier. I found that the community is starting to realize how strong Enduring Cry, Immortal Call, Self-Cast is, and with increased duration nodes, that's becoming more and more popular and brought to light. Also liked the just general mechanics, requiring you to actually use like a Chayula so you don't get caught in a spike storm, or just being able to handle all those various situations. As far as the Atziri fight, I was a bit overwhelmed when I saw videos, but when I got into it myself and I actually tried it out, I have had the pleasure of killing it 11 times. It's definitely manageable. Nice. You only get better and better. The damage is avoidable. Lightning Warp is probably one of the worst things to rely on. I found, Whirling Blades is definitely the winner. It takes the icing on the cake, but you can't really do that with a wand. So I grew accustomed to Lightning Warp. It's not ideal, but it's still definitely manageable, especially with reduced duration, 2020s. It's definitely a fun fight, and I'm really, really glad that GGG implemented the Ubers aspect, because Standard League was starting to like lose some of its, they were getting to have all these perfect items, and for what? They would clear these joke of maps of deadly mods with palaces and courtyards, and it was just a complete joke. But now they have something really to look forward to, something to farm for. We've seen recently we saw Gellick and Mrs. Fast attempt the Ubers, and they just got completely obliterated. Gellick
Annihilated.
is one of the they were known. He's known for being one of the tankiest characters in game. He builds on tankiness, and he just got
I saw
wrecked
a
like
guy.
almost
Have you seen the guy with Cyclone?
every boss. No, well, he does all different kinds of abilities. He's been trying and experimenting with, but he has all the builds and all the gear available. But
Yeah.
it's a very punishing fight. You need to play it a certain way, and it feels like the last fight, you just can't make any mistakes. You can get like one per transition, and after that, it's like lights out. But I really like how they gave some of those, high end DPS survivability enthusiasts, gear enthusiasts, like something to do, something to strive for, because that boss is no joke.
No joke, dude. Like,
I do have something to ask about that I didn't put in the thing, but what do you think about the challenge being that you have to get like 3 super rare items from the Uber Atziri fight?
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous. I think that was
I
That's
mean,
on
that
the
kind of
challenge?
forces you to not play Invasion to get that achievement, I
Right,
think. To like,
right.
You
A
need
lot
the
of the
to say, you're
invasion
not
invasion
allowed to play
players,
Invasion if you want the achievements, I feel like.
right?
What do you think?
That's
Challenges
pretty
are just not
crazy.
gonna happen if you're in an invasion. You got to go put your
Yeah.
time in, and a lot of time into ambush to get your challenges this season. That's for sure.
Right.
so, Hedgie, when it comes to Standard League, obviously Standard gets a lot of flack, but now it's almost like it got a buff, a stealth buff, because you could practice at Siri, you could practice Ubers at Siri. It's really good. A lot of people hating on Standard, but I think this is a nice little buff, a hidden buff to Standard League. You feel the
Yeah, I
same?
mean,
Definitely a good way.
yeah, Standard League is a great place to hit the ground running, and when you go into another league, and it's a good place for people to try out very extreme builds, and people want to, those DPS enthusiasts, they want to min max and they want to push their character to maximum efficiency, like where death does not matter, where if you make a mistake with reflect, it's not going to ruin your character. But yeah, it's a different taste for the game. It's to each their own. Some people like doing that. Some people like the challenge of death being imminent all the time, and that
Oh
it
yeah.
would completely send your character to a different league. But overall, I think a standard is a great league, and GGG did a good job of giving them something to do, even though that they don't have these achievements and all that cool stuff. Uber at Siri is definitely very, 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 very hard.
All right. Last thing I got. So Vaal Orb, I thought of a really cool idea that GGG can implement. I want to hear what you guys think about this, because we're still talking about this. Right now you have specific Vaal Orbs that require souls. What happens if you would use like a Vaal gem on something like Purity of Lightning? Instead of providing you the resistance, it takes away lightning resistance from all mobs around you. That is an option a Vaal Orb can give. Do you think that's a cool idea or a cool implementation?
That would
Wait,
be
what does
very,
that
very
do?
powerful.
All right, if a Vaal
Is this an
Orb,
idea?
instead of providing you the lightning resist, would lower the lightning resist of all mobs near you, similar to like what
Oh, that's
D2.
funny. I was talking about this yesterday on Alpha Stream. I was just saying to my friends, I was like, oh, it would be cool if they had some auras that were more offensive based rather than defensive based, such as like what you saw from like Diablo 2. So if you had like maybe the slowing aura that those some of the rare mobs will have, or like that, like the minus resist for mobs. I think that would be a really interesting option to add to the game to have some kind
Oh
of
yeah.
offensive auras of that nature.
Maybe we'll see something like that in the future, because they said that they're still working on more corrupted skill gems, so maybe like they have something like that in the test for like more offensive auras.
And now active skill gems, obviously they don't sell for that much, but now your Purity of Lightning that's selling for maybe an Alka or a Fusing can now sell for upwards near 10 gas, because you have to spend Vaal Orbs to get it, and then you have the risk of not getting it. I think it'd be a really good use of all those gems just sitting around in your stash.
Yeah,
Something like
but you
that.
have to keep in mind too that when they do add stuff like this, it's a big change to the PvP meta, so they have to balance it and make sure that the numbers are good. I think the concept is very, very cool, but as far as the amount of minus resist, I don't think it could be the equivalent of what it gives you right now as plus resist. But yeah, definitely would be very, very cool.
Alrighty, so we've heard from Hegemony and his discussion with Atziri, and we know who's been farming Atziri the most. has almost every single item from her. Next is Tarek. So, what are your current thoughts about racing? Let's hear it.
So for races, I'm pretty excited to see what they have in store for us for season 7. So we just got to be patient, and hopefully, like, we'll get the info posted on that soon. But I'm going to be talking about like races. I'm going to maybe give some tips, talk about some of the stronger builds, and just about racing in general. So races, if you're not familiar with races or haven't put in like some time into racing, they're timed events that challenge players on their playing ability and like general knowledge of the game, whether or not it's like using vendor recipes or just kind of knowing where to go for like what level you are or when to advance, depending on the race. They have different races, and there's some races that are completely different than playing the game normally, such as Descent Champions and Endless Ledge. Descent Champions, for example, is it's set layouts or set areas, and after I think every 3 areas or 4 areas, there's a boss that you cannot skip in order to advance. So these alternate like playthrough races are completely different than playing the game normally. Uh, there's like one of the bosses is like a buffed up Soul Eater Brutus, and he gets very, very strong when you kill ads around him. I'm sure a lot of people have had problems fighting the Turbo Brutus once he's buffed up. And Endless Ledge is just ledge layout after ledge layout where there's random monster spawns, and in Endless Ledge and Descent Champions, you cannot go to town. But aside from those 2 races, there's also modified races that have mods, and depending on the mods, like monsters might be buffed or your
Blamp.
attacks might be changed. And one of those races is Turbo, and that makes all the monsters move, attack, and cast 60% faster. So it kind of sounds a bit deadly at first, but some areas you can actually farm faster from monsters grouping up faster. But like one of the toughest parts on a turbo race is Turbo Brutus. If anybody has done a turbo race, he's
Oh yeah,
really really nasty with that attack
ah,
speed and
so
movement
hard.
speed buff. But
Just that
for a
DC.
racing for a racing skill in general, it does take quite a long time to develop your racing skill set. I think there's quite a bit of factors into it. Like there's inventory management, so managing your gear on the go, minimizing downtime, looking at like item stats, knowing which gear to equip. Learning map layouts on non-fixed races is also very important because that can honestly save you like 5-10 minutes or so in just getting through Act 1. Just kind of knowing where to go once you enter a certain area, depending on what you see. So it does take a lot of experience to like develop your racing skill set. And another thing is getting comfortable tanking monsters while you're fighting them. Like your life will drop low. You got to know when to back off to survive. You got to know how much like you can face tank without like minimizing your downtime, having to back off and heal more. And like to me, for someone that has put in a lot of time end game, like farming and leveling high, racing is a very good end game alternative. So if you find the end game getting a bit stale and you haven't gone into racing, racing is very very refreshing and it's very rewarding in my opinion.
It's probably the
But
most
Can I
rewarding
say
thing.
something
getting
about that?
yeah
Far away.
The
yeah
I used to always think, man, why would I ever do racing? That's dumb. Like I'd rather just like play the game. Like why would I race and then not have like the character I'm just gonna delete it afterwards or whatever. I don't know. But once I started actually doing races, I just did like a couple just to try it out. I think it was probably one of the more fun things that I found in the game. It's almost like you're playing another game and you get a deeper understanding of the game. So I just wanted to say that for people who haven't tried racing that are like thinking the same way I used to, I think you will actually enjoy it if you give it a shot and actually try to learn it. So yeah, I'll let you keep going. But
If
I
you-
just
yeah
wanted to say
That's
that.
how I
definitely.
feel about PvP too.
If you're interested in doing races, I don't know if you guys know this, but Tarek's the max reward for race points is 1,000 points. He got not only double that, he got 2060 points and was number 1 last season. That's insane. So props to you, dude.
A
Yeah,
boss.
it's I no life did a bit. I was doing almost every race.
How
But
did
I
you
have
sleep?
fun racing. I definitely punished my sleep schedule trying to make all those races. Was like a zombie doing some of the races. But yeah, if you haven't gotten into racing and you find yourself getting a bit bored, like racing is a very very good end game alternative. It keeps it refreshing, like switching it up. It's very rewarding and it's very fun. And if you're getting into racing, like one of the first things I always say is you always want to focus on yourself. You don't want to compare yourself to like say somebody in first or in top 10, like what level they are at what time. You want to focus on yourself and you want to focus on maybe areas that you find you're slow at or like focus on mistakes that you made that maybe you can improve on because there's always room for improvement in racing. I'm going to talk about some of the changes that affected racing in the recent patch. And one of the first things I noticed when making a new character was that Chambers 1, the zombies now, when they die in Chambers 1, they drop poison on death. And in
Ugh.
1 hour races,
Ugh.
this was like the go-to spot in 1 hour races, going to Chambers 1, resetting Chambers 1. But now, if you're melee or like a leap slam or some kind of melee attacker, it's going to make it very, very crowded in Chambers 1, and it's going to be a bit tougher. Like, I did a couple test runs, and going all damage early on, your life does drain really fast standing in the poison. So that's going to make it a bit more interesting to see how people react to that. And one thing, too, that it's still unclear is if races will have shrines and nemesis mods. And from doing some of the test races in Cutthroat, the shrines have been in there, and like they're extremely powerful for
Oh
like the
my
level or
god.
the time,
Ice
like
Nova
especially a
Shrine,
speed shrine.
that
Yeah.
one.
Speed Shrine is the
So
main one.
I really hope that at least for the signature race that they do not have shrines in them just for like it's a really big RNG factor that can really have a massive impact on your outcome for the race. So for shrines being in races balance wise, it's you can get really, really good luck with those. So I hope that they consider not having shrines in like some of the signature races. But for Nemesis mods, I really didn't encounter a lot. Maybe like a volatile here and there, and that can maybe get you killed if you're not paying attention to volatile. So I
So
hope for balance that. What's up?
I had a quick question. You mentioned about the recipes. Are there any recipes that you do like religiously during a race, like that's like you just can't live without? Or is there like a cutoff point where you're like, okay, I didn't get so and so item, and is there a particular recipe like weapon or something that you usually do
Yeah,
to be
there's a
so
few
consistent?
recipes that are very, very helpful, and one of like the most common ones, if you're an attacker with a weapon, is the increased physical damage recipe. And this like it synergizes very well with anybody that's melee or like especially spectral throw. And to do this recipe, it's just a rustic sash, a blacksmith stone, and a weapon. And depending on the quality of the rustic sash, it gives like more increased fizz damage. Like magic gives second tier roll and rare gives third tier. So keeping that in mind, you do not want to use a rare rustic on a weapon lower than 17 or 18 because it will make your weapon require level 18. So
I've
like
done that.
a lot of racing
Mm-hmm.
is making the best use of drops to you when they're given to you and knowing like what to save till later on in a race or when to craft the appropriate weapon. For example, if you get say 2 or 3 blacksmith stones by the time you finish Act 1, and like that's really really good RNG. You can maybe craft like a level 13 axe with one of your stones, but you would not want to use a rare rustic on that because you would have to wait till level 18 to use it. Or say you have a rare rustic drop early on in the race and it's a 2 hour race, you would want to most likely use that for your level 22 or 23 weapon just to get like the highest damage possible. So it does take a lot of time and like trial and error and judgment knowing when to use these recipes or like when the best time is for them to get the most effectiveness out of them. Also, some other really helpful vendor recipes are the resistance rings. Like you
Oh
generally want to
yeah.
have 2 cold res rings for Vaal. And if you're starting on a Scion to mule over Spectral Throw, like I always grab Spark from Tarlag just so I can craft a res ring guaranteed. So to do the res ring, it's just an iron ring and a skill gem of the appropriate color. Like a blue skill gem gives a lightning res ring, or sorry, a cold res ring. A red skill gem gives ruby, and a green skill gem gives lightning res.
I got a
And you
question for you.
generally want to have what's that, sorry?
I got a question for you. Um, when it comes to racing, it's a competitive thing. Who is your biggest threat when it comes to racing? Like, who are you worried is going to stomp you in season 7?
There was someone by the name of Pam who did incredible each race that they participated in. So I think for a ranger threat, Pam was very, very good. Ubers is very good. Trying to think of some other names. There's like Cobalt sometimes goes Ranger. There's a few people that they would switch between
He
like
plays a lot of
Ranger and
Ranger.
Scion.
Yeah. Speaking of Ranger, how do you feel? Because they didn't really get too much love from the passive tree makeover. Ranger, Marauder, what's the big one? Let's hear it.
Ranger, they definitely didn't get any passives like enhancements, but using the weapon recipe, their best build, in my opinion, is still definitely Spectral Throw. I've done a couple test runs doing Spectral Throw, and with decent RNG, I've been able to do like still a 27-minute and like a 30-minute Merveil kill, which is it's still very fast, but with the Spectral Throw nerf and no buffing to Ranger, like on average, it would only maybe take one or two more attacks, or like maybe three or four on a magic pack. So even though Spectral Throw got nerfed and there's no other like passives being buffed for Ranger, Ranger in my opinion is still very strong. They might not be like the most effective or fastest racer depending on like your drops right now, but they're still strong. Maybe not as strong as they used to be. Like Shadow and Ranger were kind of close before, but now that Shadow got buffed, they might be a lot closer like together as far as progression speed. With some of the passive changes though, Marauder is very, very strong. Like
Oh my
there's
god.
quite a bit of new damage nodes near Marauder, and there's very effective hybrid nodes like damage and life or life and armor, depending on how like safe you want to build or how offensive you want to build. So we're probably going to see a lot more Marauders doing a lot better, as well as
So, you
casters.
mean more Leaf Slam?
Yeah, Leap Slam with all those damage nodes, like Marauder's going to be one-shotting packs with Leap Slam most likely, and that's like the ideal pace. Is you want to be able to kill monsters in like 1 to 2 hits, so you can just kill and keep going on. But the one thing though for Marauder is they're kind of in an awkward position if you need dexterity early on. You're kind of forced into buying a Jade Amulet unless you get
A
with
lucky roll.
versatility, I think. Unless you get versatility for dexterity or go over to berserking. But depending on like the length of the race, berserking might not be the most efficient way to go now for Marauder and Duelist. Just because like there's a lot closer, really strong damage nodes nearby Marauder now. But notable like damage passes for the Marauder. He has like blunt instrument, by the blade, butchery, strong arm. So he's gonna be hitting very hard. And if you're not comfortable going leap slam and taking damage and dropping low, ground slam will also be very, very strong now as well, as there's like two-handed nodes for staffs and maces nearby, as well as destroyer down below Marauder will be very good for two-handed damage.
I got a
I'm
question.
looking forward to seeing how the
Okay.
spellcasters do with all the elemental buffs and the storm call and I guess all the like early leveling stuff is buffed.
Yeah, Witch got a huge buff.
Flame
Oh my
blast,
god.
Yeah.
flame blast is like 50% better now.
Flame Blast is so strong. Like you can almost
Yeah.
two-shot, one-shot like rare monsters, magic packs. I
Jeez.
think casters they'll probably appear more in the top, and like more caster builds will definitely be viable now that they also buffed low level spells damage and like cast speed. So I think casters will be a lot more effective in racing, especially like the ideal build for casters in season 6 was like Fire Trap, Ice Nova, and Flame Blast, and like Fire Trap and Ice Nova are very good, like rotating between the two depending on like when gems level up or if you have a weapon crafted with plus the skill gem on it. And now like rotating in Flame Blast in there to like one-shot, two-shot bosses, it's gonna give like a
Oh
very
my
good
god, yeah.
pace. And like Fireball is actually buffed now, and I did a test run a couple times, and I used Fireball on Brutus, and it killed Brutus like pretty fast. It was a lot more effective than trying to kite him with like Fire Trap or Ice Nova. So people might want
Even
to be
better than using
picking up
Spark.
Fire Trap. Pardon me?
Even better than using Spark. I know a lot of people use Spark on Brutus.
Spark is definitely strong, but like you kind of got to get in a bit close for it to be
Yeah,
effective.
little
So
dangerous.
yeah, it depends like how comfortable I guess you are using Spark as opposed to Fireball. But Spark is definitely good too, especially since all the spell buffs. Some of like the better builds too, in my opinion. Sign is kind of weird right now for passives since like the passive changes. They can go down to berserking and they can get the two clusters of axe damage nodes, but they are still quite a bit away compared to the other classes now for damage passives. Like they got a bit to go before they actually get more damage, aside from like the starting projectile nodes or melee damage nodes. So the Scion, it will still be good, but their output may not be where it is how it was in season 6. They
They
might
got
not be
some
like,
huge nerfs, and so did Spectral Throw.
yeah. Yeah, so like Scion, they're gonna, in my opinion, be forced into going axes just because of the two axe damage clusters near Iron Grip. But axes are very, very strong. They have the highest base damage. So for me, when I race on Ranger, I generally favor axes until I craft my level 22 sword because I don't have any like weapon-specific damage nodes. It's just all general two-hander. But
Uh,
like,
I'm new to
go
racing.
ahead.
I rarely race. It's just not my cup of tea. If someone like me were to go into a 3 hour race, some people I've learned that like some people go to Dom, some people farm docks. Why do they do this? Why do some people choose Dom over docks?
For the Dom over Docs, it's hard for me to say why. Maybe they want to get like the bonus points for the first quest completed. But from my experiences, is you can get a lot more XP farming Docs for like an hour and a half compared to progressing to Dom. But if you're in a party and like you guys practice doing Act 3 questing, just Act 3 questing, it can be very, very slow. There's a lot of running around. The sewers can like it can give a lot of trouble, especially if you have low life. Like the chaos damage, it'll rip right through you. But if you have a good experienced party and you want to progress past Act 3, you might slow down for like a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes during the questing phase. But once you get to Act 1 Cruel, you get a lot of XP doing Ledge, and once you get to Act 2, you get like insane amounts of XP doing Chambers 1. But if you're not safe, or if you're not comfortable doing like the Act 3 questing, or if you're solo, or maybe in only like a party of two, doing docks it's the most efficient way for XP, but it does get a bit tedious, I would say, after like an hour and a half in a race. It just depending on the length of the race, you have to really plan out like your time efficiently. You got to know like what area you can get to and how long, and how much time it leaves you to farm that area in particular. Like for 1 hour races, the kind of go-to strategy is to get to Chambers 1 and farm Chambers 1. But not everybody might be doing that now since the monsters are going to drop poison on death.
Oh
So
yeah.
maybe they'll like go to Fell Shrine if they want a bit more room, or maybe even just try farming Crypt. But I've never really had much luck with Crypt. It can be very, very like RNG dependent on how much experience you'll get there. But
Beef.
sorry, go ahead.
One last question. Someone just asked a question. They want to know if you get the power of racing from your hair. Is that true?
If I get the, it does help out a little bit. It does help out. It's
I
real
had a
world
quick question for
advantages.
Terex. As far as like, is there a sweet spot of like an item level or a particular item that you go for in a race? Like, how does your decision making when you're crafting go in like a 1 hour versus a 3 hour? Like, how do you pace yourself? At what checks? When is it good to blow all your currency, or do you spend all your currency trying to get movement speed boots? Like, can you give us a little insight on your crafting while racing in shorter
Yeah,
races, not longer ones?
for itemizing on say a 1 hour race is things to keep in mind are the item based level requirements. So for me having like a lot of experience doing spectral throw and two-handers, like I kind of know which are the better bases to use. Like I prefer using a two-handed sword over any of the other two-handed weapons until about level 8, like to fight Brutus, just because with the starting corroded blade, I can attack twice and move without getting hooked. But if you have a staff with the lower attack speed, you can only attack once safely without getting hooked. But for itemizing on like a 1 hour race is I generally go for axes because they have the highest base damage. So I will try to save. If I get a blacksmith stone, I will try to craft a level 13 wood splitter axe, just because it has the highest base damage, and that'll give the highest damage output for that race, and like it'll be most effective for that level range. And hopefully like another one will drop for the level 18 axe. And like you always want to prioritize your two-handed weapon recipe. So say you get a transmute and you do not have a magic rustic, you might not want a vendor that transmute for scrolls or transmute like your gloves or a ring. You will definitely want to save that for a rustic sash to get a higher fizz damage roll. So a lot of that just comes with from experience and knowing like once you get to certain levels what new gear you're open to. Movement speed boots are always very, very crucial in saving like minutes. Like they can save you like 5 minutes running in Act 1. At the start of a race, I always check the vendor for movement speed boots, and since I mule over a gem, I check on both characters for movement speed boots. And like even if you might not be transferring over a gem at the start of a race, an extra iron ring if you're an attacker, or an extra coal ring for casters, it can be very, very helpful in like maximizing your output or minimizing your downtime from taking damage and dropping too low. So starting two characters at the start of a race can be definitely beneficial in like your progression speed. So like keep that in mind, even if like you don't transfer over a skill gem.
Let's hear it, Colby. Oh, he's just.
I'm laughing at your cats.
Oh, dude, Ninja Cat and Oscar, you can't deny
I'm
them.
just sitting here watching them like play with each other.
Dude, wait till the green screen goes live. They're just floating cats. They love it up here. I don't know. All right,
All right,
so
we're gonna transition.
yeah, let's transition. I
Zenith.
appreciate you coming here. This is our little guest, not little, our big time guest star, Terry. Thanks for coming by, man. We're gonna be trying to do guest stars every single time. You know, maybe he'll come back again in the future. I want Mano in the next one. You guys tell Mano he's in on the next one. Slap him
Thanks a lot
around.
for having me here.
So, what am I talking about today? Well, before I get going, I want to, again, thank everybody for tuning in. We got a lot of viewers up in here, all 700 of you. Thank you. I also want to thank Twitch, GGG, love you guys both. And hang tight for those 8 microtransactions. Hang tight for them. Colby's giving away 2, Hedgie's giving away 2, Terry and myself are each giving away 1, and then 2. As soon as the podcast ends, we'll give one live right away. So hang tight. We're going to take down the podcast, bring back up the stream for your 2 microtransactions to be given away. All right, so today I'm going to be discussing chaos damage dealt by players. Not so much chaos damage taken. We all know it sucks. So let's go into direct damage chaos. I think in the current state of the game, chaos degen abilities, they need a little love, but you could still make some builds work with them. You know, there's like poison arrow traps. There's like a +1/+2 poison arrow bow. You see those builds. You see some Viper Strikers using Death Oath and Iron, Iron Reflexes, Viper Strike. It's pretty good, you know, but it's nothing where it needs to be. There's no, in the current state of the game, there's no penetration. There's no curse that can lower the amount of chaos resist a mob has. And generally speaking, because it's non-reflectable, but all of the chaos damage we deal in the current state of the game, most of it is degen. So it's like, sure, we can't really reflect chaos damage, but really the only chaos damage that would ever be reflectable is when we use the added chaos gem or something like Infernal Mantle. I think they need to create some sort of chaos damage. Ah, great, my green screen just fell a little. Some sort of chaos damage skill that deals direct damage. I have a couple ideas behind that, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. You know, you can shoot off questions or later on critique it. But I think a chaos damage spell that deals direct damage, something to do with crit. The best thing about chaos damage is when you crit, you don't have to worry about the downsides. No reflect, you know. Maybe they could scale back the spell damage so it doesn't scale nearly as well, but perhaps something like you shoot a projectile, like a spell, some sort of like goopy looking ball, whatever they want to make it look. But when it hits the target, if it crits, it'll explode into like a 5 shrapnel, similar to like lightning trap, how that looks. And I think that'd be a really cool technique because there's a lot of direct damage spells, but it's almost like if they don't have an AoE component to it, they're just completely, no one wants to play them. Or there's a lot of spells where if they have any delay to it, which is like Desecrate, they don't want to play it.
I would like to see penetration for chaos.
Someone's got feedback. One of you 4. All right.
Shouldn't be me.
I think it was Terry. But what'd you say, Colby?
I would like to see penetration for chaos damage.
Yeah, like a Chaos Pen Gem or like even like a curse. Make it as high as, you know, like flammability or conductivity, but maybe like half as effective because chaos damage does have a lot of perks to it, so it can't be as strong as something like flammability. So I would like to see
some kind of like corrode ability that like slowly lowers their resistance
Awesome
as the
idea.
chaos damage rises, something cool like that that would like gets better and better as it stacks on them.
That's a really good idea. That is an
That does
amazing
sound really
idea.
good. Does my mic still give feedback?
No, you're good. You're good.
Sounds
Alright.
okay now.
But they can make like a corrode type ability rather than just poison arrow. Here's a cloud. Make some sort of like they already have lightning arrow, ice shot, and burning arrow. They all give some sort of conversion or extra damage. Why don't they make that a direct damage? A projectile attack that 30% of your physical damage is now added with chaos. Get a Ming's heart. Hey, you're loving life. Get the chaos nodes. I think that'd be really interesting. So there's that. Also, I think that they need to make some sort of purity of chaos. Chaos resistance, you need it more and more and more. Don't make it as strong as purity of lightning or purity of fire, but definitely like maybe half as effective. I think that would be needed. Some people would totally sacrifice their, one of their damage auras for that. I know I personally would in Invasion. It's so clutch.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be costly to get like a chaos res aura. I feel like definitely like 60% reserved. It may be like half as much as the other auras give.
Yeah, agreed.
I feel like chaos damage it's one of those fine lines because I don't think it should have the damage potential as other builds because I mean the benefit to using chaos res is never having to deal with reflect. So
Yeah, never having to deal with reflect, but as a ranger, you never have to really worry about reflect. As soon as you get Anders Guile, and you're not using a lion's eye, you're like, whatever, reflect, done, over. So they can, the whole argument for not having to deal with reflect is really easily trumped, in my opinion. Maybe for spellcasters, because you just get a lot of crit. So if they were to make a direct damage spell, they would have to lower the effectiveness or make it not as strong as some, don't make it as strong as Fireball. I think it would be really, really good. And the players want more chaos damage, GGG. They want more direct damage chaos spells. They're tired of the D-Gen. The D-Gen's cool, but we want direct damage.
Maybe like a corrupted version of skill gems where it maybe lowers the output a little but makes it into chaos damage. Like that would be kind of cool.
Alrighty.
chaos damage is also very, very, very scary in PvP.
Oh, yeah.
So that's another thing that they
Yeah.
have to consider when they balance these things is they don't overdo it and make it like, oh my god, you just need to go this spec and use this spell. But I definitely agree that there's a void of, the lack of chaos spells.
And in
it-
terms of
it should-
PvP, they could just do what they did with like RF, just lower the effectiveness in PvP to make it not as crazy. Like as Righteous Fire got that huge slap in the face this recent patch.
It was really good in PvP though.
Oh my god, it was insane.
Yeah.
Best thing I've seen in PvP is when people use the multi-strike, heavy strike, and you just like stun lock the whole time
Oh my god.
with like all the D-Gen auras and stuff.
All right, so the last 10 minutes of my session, I would like all of us to talk about Cutthroat. Has everyone here experienced Cutthroat first off?
Yep.
I have, but I haven't played much of it. I plan
played it
on
like
playing a lot of
once.
it.
Hellman, if you're
I
out
just don't
there.
like this.
Hellman
Yeah,
destroyed
I'm
me and I
excited.
gave up. I came out of Mervile. Hey, here we go. Bear trap, cold snap. See you later, Xeno. Thanks,
I just
Hellman.
rushed to Flicker Strike and I was killing everyone. I killed everyone. Like no one. I killed Hellman. I remember in a Cutthroat.
Oh,
Yeah.
that one must have felt good.
I just one shot. Like Flicker is retarded with that early levels of.
Yeah, landing that first hit is like crucial in Cutthroat. Whoever like can hit the other guy first usually just stun locks them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
permanently freezes them.
Oh, speaking
I
of freezing,
hate
I went up against a guy with like glacial hammer. That was scary. Like,
Glacial Hammer is
Yeah.
super strong in Cutthroat.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
yeah, because you're not gonna have max
Definitely one of
cold
the
res
best.
early.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I definitely would
Bear
like to
trap
see
and, like,
a
Glacial
permanent
Hammer.
Cutthroat League. I can't wait. Honestly, if they have a 4-month Cutthroat League, I will be playing that.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
Definitely.
I'll be there right with you. You can whoop my ass as many times as you want.
Whoa.
Whatever, Colby. So early Cutthroat, those 1 hour ones, I find pretty boring. It's like, oh cool, I got dual strike and I got double attack and bear trap.
Because it takes like most of the 1 hour race to get the
Exactly.
stuff to go fight with.
I want to see like a nice a week long Cutthroat. I want to see some high level like level 80 going at it, losing all your gear. That would be great.
That's
that
where
would
I
be
think
so
it'd be the
painful
best.
though.
The tears would roll.
Dude, that
Like
would be harder than hardcore League. I feel like. I don't
a
know.
longer
You
developed
definitely
like Cutthroat event will definitely be, I think, a bit more intense, and people might be a bit more committed to that, like on a week long or a month or 4 month. And that way you can actually develop like we'll have a more developed character with more skills to use, a lot more synergy. So maybe with longer events, like we might see more commitment to it.
Yeah, like in a 4 month. Imagine Bear Trap. I want to buy Bear Trap. It's gonna be like Searing Bond at the start of Invasion. 2 chaos for a Bear Trap, please. I'm begging you.
I feel like
Yeah.
as a game design, if you have like a permanent cutthroat, it's going to bring back the nostalgia of like these MMOs where you had guilds, the socialization. It's going to be good to have friends because
Oh yeah.
you're going to
Yeah.
be, you're going to be butt naked and you're going to need to gear up and you're going to need friends to go get your
I'm
stuff
butt
back.
naked and I need friends.
Exactly.
Blue
So
items have become essential again. The useful blue items. Oh man.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
like that'll definitely bring a new aspect where it's a league where you need to start, socializing and get a guild, get some protection, get it, make alliances, make wars. I mean, the potential for that kind of stuff I think is just, my mind is just, going so fast right now thinking about that kind of stuff. And that's what I would like to see in this game because right now guilds there's not many like guild event type things. People just help each other out with gear or rushes or
Yep.
waypoints, but there's not real like a sense of like guild versus guild or things like that. And Cutthroat would definitely spice that up for sure.
Oh man, being in a big
There'd be a
guild,
lot of rivalry.
micro man, that's another one of those pay to win. Man, you got more guildies. I can hear that
Yeah.
excuse. People crying that train.
Well, you can make
I had
alliances
something
too.
I would wanted to see as well. Like it's not Cutthroat necessarily, but like in terms of like how they brought out the Descent Champions. I always thought it would be really cool if they had a race where there was no drops, but along the way you'd find like chests that had like unique leveling gear, like different sets of leveling gear. So you would have like at a certain level you would get like face breakers, and you would have stuff that you can like build around with like basically if you twinked out a character right now you would have all these like really fast leveling gear items. But I would like to see a race where it was all like with instead of RNG from drops, it was like you had to build around the a bunch of like unique drops that or items of that nature, and then they can they can create like special ones for the league, and so it'd be just a race against who can do the best with those items rather than who gets the RNG of finding like a really good weapon or something like that. I think that would be fun.
I've
I don't
read
know. It's
a.
That's a
kind of
cool
like the
concept.
fixed race, you know?
That's a really cool idea. I read someone actually put up a Reddit post a while ago, and it was really interesting read. It was something like an endless ledge, but it's like an endless dungeon, and you can never leave it. And actually, I take that back. You can only leave once you obtain level 20, and you find an item that allows you to teleport out. Now you can't keep any of the gear with you whatsoever unless it's in like a blue chest or make it like a different colored chest. So that way, like when your character usually when a race is over, that's it. See you later. But those items you find in the blue chest, you could keep in like standard league, for example. I think that'd be really really cool. I don't know. I like an endless dungeon kind of thing. I thought it was awesome. Just a new variation of racing.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of freedom for like with those kind of races. Maybe to start you off on like Act 3 instead of starting on at Act 1 with like a set
Oh
level, maybe
yeah.
some gear to craft with, and like see you can kill Dominus first or get to like Cruel Act 2 or something.
Yeah.
It's really nice when they force the player to come up with a new strategy or new builds for races.
Rather than starting
So
level
hope,
one. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
really awesome idea.
so maybe we'll see some more races like that. I've also like heard somebody talk about a race where it's only the chests from ambush. Like that's the only way to get XP is the monsters come out of chests from like the ambush chests. So
And,
that I
and,
think
and
there's
they
a
give you
pretty
like a
neat
Interesting.
starter
concept.
chest, like in the
I
beginning of
really
Descent.
like that idea
That'd
where
be
you
There's
pretty
no
just
fun.
monsters
only
on the
get
map.
XP.
Yeah,
No
only get
monsters on the
XP
map,
from
just chests
monsters.
everywhere, and it's you
Yeah,
tackling those packs,
That'd
individually.
be
I
so
think
funny to
I
see
think that
that.
would be one of like the
Yeah.
best, funnest races if
First
they did that.
chest explodes. See you later.
Freezes. No, the freezing one's the worst because like even if you whirl away, you're still frozen.
Yeah, you're
All the other
done.
traps you can get away from.
Yeah,
Remove freezing flask.
people are saying, open up ambush chest with a smoke mine ready to go in case you mess it up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I was
That's
thinking
smart.
whenever I if I did ambushing.
That would be really cool. That ambush chest only would be a really really cool race. You
Yeah.
would scrolls of wisdom would be so useful. Oh my god, I ain't rolling that.
Hopefully they come out with that.
All right, so now that you heard our opinions on Cutthroat, different races, chaos damage, all sorts of talks about Vaal orbs and ambush versus invasion, let's go into one of the most fun parts of this, the live Q&A. We got about 50 minutes left of this podcast. I wanted this to be about a half hour, but we cut some short. No, nothing intentional there. So I guess you guys get about 50 minutes of live Q&A. Who wants to fire off the first question?
I'll say it. It
One.
says MDZDRI.
It's Medusa. Medusa.
Okay, he says, Terex, how many Atziri
Atziri.
kills do you have so far?
I think around 37. And I have 2 more
Jeez.
midnights to do later on tonight.
How many items do you have from her? Like, how many items are you missing?
I'm only missing the cold damage belt. I got like quite a bit of the other ones, but just that cold damage belt won't drop.
That's freaking nuts.
Trizix asks, Terex, will Rangers use Mule Spectral Throw in races?
I definitely feel that Spectral Throw is still the best option for Rangers, just because like itemizing bows early on it's fairly weak compared to itemizing two-handed weapons, and the increased physical damage recipe is just way more effective on a two-handed weapon compared to a bow, because the bows generally have a low base damage. It doesn't scale as well.
Okay. Next question. Colby, you got this one. What do you think about Uber Atziri? Possible in hardcore league. King of dying. More deaths than me.
Dude, the Uber Atziri, I don't know, man. I don't think it's going to be possible in the Invasion League. Well, it's possible. Sorry, I'll take it back. I don't really think it's going to be done. I don't think people are going to do the achievement in the Invasion League. That's for sure.
Do you suspect a hot fix where once, like the first 2 kills use the perma curse? Do you think they'll make it so as soon as the person leaves the instance, the curses will disappear? I think that needs to happen, personally.
I don't know if they'll do that far, but I don't know. From what I've seen, like I haven't seen many videos of Uber Atziri, but I saw a guy go in there and just get like one shot by white mobs from like 9,000 life. I was like, what? And then eventually got to the Vaal and just I don't know. It looks really hard. I think you're gonna have to be not only like geared up properly, but you're gonna just have to like be perfect at dodging shit stuff. Sorry. Anyways, but that's what I don't know. I haven't seen enough of it. Like I can't give you like personal experience on it. All I know is that it's going to be ridiculous. If someone does that, then they get all the props in the world in a hardcore league.
Oh yeah. All right, Terry, you get another question. You're popular, man. It's got to be the hair. This is Super Saiyan Terry over
He's
here.
a cute hamster, someone said.
What are the 3 best tips you'd give someone who wants to start getting into races?
The 3 best tips I can think of would be first, just focus on your own mistakes and your own progression. You want to maybe, like, if you can reflect back on mistakes you made throughout the race that you know for like a future reference not to do. A second one would be vendor recipes. Research maybe what are the common vendor recipes that some of like the top racers do, or like check out maybe the vendor recipes page on the wiki. And the third best one I can think of is you have to stick with 1 or 2 builds that you really want to perfect, and like you have to enjoy playing those characters as well. Otherwise it won't be as nearly as fun or rewarding, and you might get a bit frustrated with the character that you're playing. So you gotta have fun doing it.
Here you go. It's awesome.
I have a thought on that as well. One of the best things that helped me out when I first started racing was, but yeah, the thing about sticking with one build. Like I found someone who was doing Ranger, and I just watched their video, watched a VOD of them doing like an hour and a half race, and I just wrote a note of like what level they were and what zone, how many minutes it took them to get to each like checkpoint or whatever. And try to just like look at what they were doing and like just take those notes. And then whenever I went back and I did my practices in my real races, I tried to compare what I was doing different from them. And then you basically just try and slowly match what the good players are doing. That's probably one of the best ways to learn quickly is to just try to match what the best players are doing.
With that said, Colby, I was playing with you on a brand new character, and me, I don't race at all. You're like, we're over leveled in the zone. I press tab. I'm like, we're lower than the level of the zone. He's like, no, we're over level. Let's keep going. And it makes him a
Yeah.
better leveler. Like, just
Yeah,
straight up.
exactly. That's what I learned from racing. I didn't think about stuff like that, but I was like, man, we're almost zone level. We need to get going.
We're almost the same level as the zone. What are we doing?
Yeah, I was like, this is doing terrible. We're like,
Yeah,
it's
to get-
fine.
To get the most XP, it's good to kill monsters like a couple levels higher and like just to keep moving in a race. But there gets to be points to like where you do not want to be a certain level lower than the area that you enter. Like you always want to be 15 before going into Chambers 1. Otherwise, you'll get XP penalty.
I'm like 20 when I go in there. God, I suck. All right, next question. Whoops, scroll down.
Let's try to
Oh.
mention the names when we read the questions.
Sure. At all. Do you think that elemental buzzsaw-like build, triple auras using split arrow for groups and barrage for single target would work with a bow? I'm thinking of a high Ellie attack speed thicket bow. Without a doubt.
Watanagogiku or something.
Oh, that one was by
Savenge.
Savenge. That
Oh,
will absolutely work. I feel that you can easily run usually when you're running like elemental builds, Clarity's the go-to with EB. You know, you can make your way up to EB easily as a shadow or even a ranger. And believe it or not, witch elemental builds are coming out because of the buff to witch. I think you can easily do 4 auras, if not more. You can probably do 5 auras in an endgame spec. You know, just pick up at least all the aura nodes and you'll be fine. I don't see why that wouldn't work. All right. Next question's by Only Plays Lee Sin at Colby Cheese. Hey Colby, what would be the strongest class to start for a dual strike double claw wielder?
Dual strike double claw.
Yep.
You'd probably want to do that with Ranger Shadow, depending on if you're doing like crit or whatever. Just because if you're doing claw, you're usually going to be in that area.
You think CI is a viable option without that shield?
CI? I don't think he's saying CI, but I guess with CI, I think with the new Vaal pack area, you're gonna have to get as much leech as possible. So claws will probably be a better option for doing that sort of build. But I haven't seen it yet.
How about an offhand Bloodseeker, main hand something else? CI is good to go.
Yeah, a lot of people do that with. Yeah, a lot of people do that with whirlwind builds or cyclone. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll do a double claw with the Bloodseeker in the offhand for the leech, and then just as much damage as they can get on the main hand.
All right. Next question is going to be asked by Watanogiku. It's at all. You want to take this one, Hedgie? What do you think about the mechanic of unforeseeable gear checks from off-screen invasion bosses and most of all, devourers?
I think that the fear of those mechanics are good. It causes people to play differently. Like where you were, once used to just sprint flasking and face rolling room to room, there's now the unknown, and I think they're very good. I mean, the Devourer is kind of rough. I've faced him a lot, and I've killed him every single time. I think there are other ones that are more dangerous, like the Vaal totem guy and the little plant guy that shoots the balls. He does Ellie weak with ball lightning, but I honestly like the what do you call it? The Devourer that shoots lightning balls. He is definitely manageable. You can react. Spell block definitely is very, very good. Having max res is definitely very good, but there needs to be threats to the game in general so that people play differently. Like the meta is going to shift. It's no longer going to be these cookie cutter builds. Builds are going to change, and that's good for the game. You might have to make that adjustment. Some will make it faster than others, but that particular mob, yeah, he's okay. There are ones that are worse, but overall, I think he's all right.
Yeah, I've noticed there's a lot more passive tree nodes that were pretty mediocre before that. Now you're like, I need this in Invasion. It's pretty cool.
Right,
Yeah.
like especially with the plus max, I thought that was going to be the most OP thing. Like when I saw the new Marauder start, I was like, no way, this is like OP. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, now I know why these are here. Get these nodes.
Yeah,
that's
for
awesome.
reals. They I don't think we have as much problem with the off-screen stuff. They fixed a little bit, but some of the stuff is still kind of off-screen, like the guys that leap on you off-screen. There's a couple of
Right.
like the Chaos Leaper and the Fire Leaper, which he's not as bad, but he's scary when he does it either way. And then the
Yeah.
Totem guys, the guy with the crazy, he's the Vaal, and he does the what's that totem that really wrecks people? I don't know his name.
The
Uh,
flame incinerate totem or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, he does like
oh yeah.
Incinerate Totem, Storm Calls that come down like instantly and stuff like that.
Yeah, that
That
guy
guy
is rough.
is like insta log out as soon as I see a totem from him. Yeah, I'm like, no,
Mhm.
That spectral
no,
throw
thank you.
dude. Oh my god.
Yeah, no,
He's
you can
nasty.
just walk away from him. He's not.
Yeah,
He's,
you can
it
walk
just
away
takes a
from, but I
while.
don't fight him. Heck no.
Oh yeah.
The
I was just talking
anime
about like
guardian
insta
guy is
off-screen
rough.
kills. Yeah,
The
I had a
anime
problem
what
with him.
dude?
I just don't.
Someone's like Soul
yeah,
Takers and
sure.
Yeah,
Reaper's
he's just not worth the
Pursuit.
time.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can't
No.
really
Not
face
worth the
tank
time.
that guy, but I think the two most deadliest invasion bosses at the moment is the Veil guy and the little plant looking dude, the ball lightning LE weakness plant. He's so
Ah.
hard to detect.
Oh yeah,
He's so
that
hard.
guy.
He's so sneaky.
That was the
So
only one I
Demon
couldn't
one two
kill.
three. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that was just the only one I couldn't kill on my Templar. That guy would almost kill me in like 2 seconds
Yeah, that's
with
what
Elemental
the rank
Weakness.
1 and then the rank 49 they both died to at the same time. Was that one?
Ouch.
Oof.
Yeah, that's the one that shot them like yesterday or day before. Demon 123 is saying, "Hey everyone, some people get 2 to 4% life leech on gear, but I find it doesn't cap out your leech often. Do you think the difference between being able to go leech on gear and needing gem for leech is micromanagement and not getting hit as much because lots of better players make leech gear work?"
All right, Mana Leech, in my honest opinion, is completely worthless. Like without a doubt. That's just how I'm going to start with this. The gem, worthless. On the gear, you can get it. It helps, but it's almost like I don't know. I can't stand it. What do you guys
Yeah, he's
feel?
talking about life leech though.
Oh, life leech. My apologies. Some people
The
get 2 to 4%. Go ahead, Terry. My bad.
With the life leech changes, for using life leech, it almost favors now slower, harder hits as opposed to fast, weaker hits. Just that way, you'll have like some leeching going on in between downtime and fights. So on my duelist, since I don't have a lot of attack speed, but I have a lot of actual fizz damage buff, I haven't really noticed much of a change with the actual life leech nerf, just because I hit hard, and that allows me to continue leeching when I actually stop hitting monsters. But so maybe life on hit now is definitely a lot more favorable for like people using multi-strike or
Faster
some kind of like
attacks.
AoE attack.
Yep, I completely agree.
Yeah,
Any
I
like
feel like
bow
it's the
user.
same way. While like some of the other ones remain unchanged, like heavy strike is, I feel is just as strong. Like the faster attacking machine gunning, like frenzy builds or reeve builds, where you just go massive attack speed, and you used to be able to keep up with just even 2% as long as you had enough damage behind it. But now they're definitely shifting towards more quality, heavy hitting. Attack speed is not, so great now because
Something like
I think I
go
think they
ahead.
want you to have more reliance on using like instead of just 2 insta flasks, they want you to have like maybe like a sapping flask or something like that, and they want you to favor some of the flask life nodes. Like they put that directly in front of the resist node for the Marauder. They're trying to show people those are good nodes.
Herbalism.
Also, having
Oh,
lots of life regen, they added a lot more life regen. They want people to use other sustain options than just having this like always life back with leech. They want you to explore other ways of getting your life back, and that's what I've been doing personally is using potions with life nodes, or potion nodes on the tree with potions, and then like lots of life regen and stuff like that.
yeah.
right. I
Before,
mean,
go ahead.
it's a good shift because like everybody was complaining, oh my gosh, physical attack base is just so much superior, and it's mainly because of the benefits with leech. It's like
Yes.
limitless with the way it was. So instead of like buffing elemental out of control to the where they came to physical, and spells still remain lackluster, like if we were in an attack based league with physical, convert your physical into added fire with hatred and all that, attack speed, and you're golden. But now we're seeing an age where we're like buffing up elemental a little bit, bringing physical down to reality, and now we're seeing more balance overall. It's an adjustment that everyone's going to make. A lot of people's builds don't feel as great, but all in all, I think it's better for the game in the long run. And like Colby said, there are ways to combat this, and other means, and it makes the game interesting instead of the same 4 month doing it all over again.
But it also hurt
Yeah.
builds like Incinerate. Like Incinerate Life Leech Incinerate was awesome. Now it's like useless. I feel like, I still think some spells need some love rather than just using a Vaal Orb, hoping you get 1% Leech as lightning or as fire. I
You
think
gotta
they,
use that claw now or
yeah,
dagger or whatever
Yeah,
it was.
Sybil's
Sybil's
Paw.
Paw
Whatever
got a
it is.
huge buff from that. Maybe
It's
make a
really
little bit
good.
of like spells get some sort of buff in terms of life leech or life on hit for spells.
I want some life on hit to work with spells.
Yep.
That'd
Maybe
be
if they
cool,
make it
too.
half
I
as
mean,
effective or something, some way to make it better, life on hit for spells. Because right now it only works
Corrupt
with
life on hit
Yeah, there you go.
to give or life on spell hit.
I can believe it.
Wantanogiku says, Zeno, how do you think GGG can make melee builds just as viable in Invasion as ranged builds without making them OP?
Well, block is really, really good, and it really didn't get any changes at all in the new patch. I think block is still one of the most solid things. Getting cap block can like pretty much trivialize
Yeah, it's
most
so good.
bosses. Um, Another thing is evasion, despite not getting very much buffs, they have a lot of flask nodes too. Picking up herbalism, I never used to get it. Now I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. Or even your thick skin, there's two flask nodes that people don't even realize are there. They may be worth picking up early on, or maybe even for late game. So there's those options. I still think melee is solid. Heck, world first Atziri was melee, right? Right.
It's
So
a special
Yeah.
throw, right?
he was using Soul Taker. I'm fairly.
For invasion,
Oh, you're talking about invasion.
Yeah.
Yes, he used cyclone. Yeah.
Yeah. So melee's possible. It requires
That
gear,
spell block.
but spell block and block in general are just so strong. In the current state of the game, if you're melee, dual wield, if you get a good enough block, it work. But with a shield, man, that's free block. All right, next
some
question.
skills
Oh,
even
good.
function better with one hand and a shield. Like the functionality of Cyclone, you can actually get higher DPS using a one hand compared to dual wielding with Cyclone, using like a one hand and shield.
Oh yeah.
Drag WYLYA. To all you guys, don't you guys think the boxes and bosses are in the wrong league? The bosses would be way better in softcore league where dying sucks, but it happens. The boxes actually prevents the player from the risk and reward thing necessary in the hardcore leagues. What I mean to ask is, do you guys think that the leagues are well mixed up? I'll kick this one off. Yeah, I do feel like the rewards are backwards. I feel like while we are facing some of the biggest and hardest threats in the league that we constantly die and send our items to a different league where they just get depleted from the economy completely, you definitely need more items to circulate to combat it, and that's why we see the very, very, very slow progression in invasion as we did before it was actually competitive, where onslaught or nemesis was slightly behind, but now we're seeing a huge gap, and that gap I definitely think is representation of the reward that you get in ambush and the difficulty versus the what we're getting here. I really feel like the reward got flipped the other way. I think they should have gotten the other thing.
And those boxes are still deadly late game. People are like, oh, who cares? Boxes might kill you in softcore, but in invasion, if they were in there, I would still be scared. I'd
Yeah,
reroll.
you would still be scared.
Chaos orb the heck out of them.
They are very real threats, but the reward, if they just switch the reward, like if they made the bosses drop like rewards like the ambush ones, I feel like it'd be in a really
that's
good
what.
spot.
Yeah, like I was saying.
Completely agree.
I like the bosses. I really like the bosses and the threat of, taking it slow, analyzing the situation, recalculating the way you play. I like that a lot.
I also like the idea, before you were in a zone, there was no unique bosses in some zones, or the unique bosses were a complete joke, like the Crossroads boss. You don't even realize he's a damn unique mob. If they implement keeping the invasion bosses in every league, that'd be cool. But definitely, if they add rewards, I mean, when the 4 months are over, keep them. They're awesome. Just make it worth our while.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's what I'm
like-
saying. Like, yeah, I want a reason to kill them. I want to kill like with like I said with the exiles. I want to kill them. They drop all the rings and stuff.
Poof,
Like, give me some
one of
more
every
rings,
item
bro.
slot and some flasks.
Yeah, dude. Heck yeah.
Maybe give them some unique items, like from their own kind of pool that they can only drop.
like you can only get the uniques from the bosses.
Yeah.
that would add a lot more incentive to fighting them.
Yeah, give it's like you can drop certain Vaal items from.
Terry. All right, what's the next question we got here?
Do you think? Let's see.
It's by Watanabe Giku again.
Yeah,
Uh,
Watanabe, do you guys think that the game is currently experiencing power creep on their uniques? If you look at some of the newer uniques, they're generally all considered really strong or maybe even OP.
Yeah, I do think they need to go back and like fix some of those gloves, or gloves, uniques. The was it Hrimsaro's gloves, the Go Hide gloves. Every time those drop, I'm like, well, elk shards. I do think they need to go back and give some love to those. And they don't have a very big team, but it would be cool if they would go back and make it, yeah, cool, physical to cold conversion and adds cold and gives you cold res and life. Cool. Now I might consider using it. The new uniques are very strong, but keep in mind that's what the people are asking for.
Super high level. Yeah, I mean that's in game. So I think
They're pretty
that's what
exclusive.
Standard League is wanting. They're wanting, right? So.
Yeah. But there are some really, really strong low-level uniques. Like, when you put on that Meginord's 10 to 20 physical damage at level 8 is godly. It's so
That's
good.
huge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Especially with like a fast attacking weapon.
I would like to see more of those. Because, like, late-game Meginord's, it's still
I
viable.
love leveling items.
Yeah, it's still viable, but you might want to use a Rustic Sash with Elemental and then Life Resist over a Meginord's late game.
If I was ever able to make a unique item, it would have to be some badass leveling item. Because I have, it's so much fun to, once you play your first character and you got a little bit of currency, you just go back and buy those cheap leveling items. You feel so strong in that first,
Stormcloud?
first
Oh.
couple playthrough. Yeah, Stormcloud, or you have like 70 ES at level 1 or something. You're like, nothing could touch me, and you just like run around. It's fun,
One
So
shot
I would like to see
everything.
yeah, like Searing Touch all the way. And you
Oh,
just, like,
Searing
one-shot
Touch is
everything with
solid.
touch.
I love that.
So good for leveling. I would like to see more cool stuff like that. That is really good for leveling up.
Fen Coil is pretty fun too. I like that one.
Yeah, the trap gem. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's not the best, but it's pretty fun.
All right. Next question. At Hegemony, what are the chances of corrupting a gem and going wrong?
From my experience, from about 100 gems, it seemed to be like 50% of the time nothing would happen. 25% of the time, it would be increased in some way, either by level or 1 to 3% quality, and 25% of the time it seems like it either lost a level or lost its quality.
Oh, so
That's
you have
from
1
my
in 4
experience.
chance of getting something
Yeah, you have a
good.
1 in 4 chance of
And
it going
seventy-
bad.
I've done
5%
like
chance of
10 or
negative.
12 gems, and I've gotten nothing so far on every single one of those.
Yeah, it was
That's bad
disheartening
luck.
because I was on a roll. I got like 4+1 gems on all stuff that I don't really use, but they were max anyways. And then like when I went to my good gems, they all like de-leveled or lost quality. I did 3 level 3 empowers. 2 of them nothing happened, and 1 of them de-leveled. It was really bad.
Oh, yikes.
Next question is that question was from Loco Cantina. This question is from One Mana Left. Terex, what do you think about the progression-based race where it's based on, say, who kills normal Dominus first, not on who's the highest level or has the most XP?
I think
That's cool.
I think it's a really good concept because this will force people to come up with like maybe a more boss killing race character, as opposed to like just getting to like Chambers 1 or Docks the fastest and then leveling up super high. This will make people come up with like certain builds that like they're maybe only going to shine on like that Dominus fight, and you might struggle until then. So I think with them coming out with races where you have to come up with new builds or new type of characters, it's really fun and exciting because that's like what I enjoy from racing is just being put in that position and coming up with like a successful, fun character and seeing like the progress of it or getting the rewards.
Progression
from it.
races. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Just either just killing a boss first, or just whoever gets the furthest in a certain amount of time. Whoever can get the farthest, and you just try and go all the way to like Act 2, and
Or
you
even
just-
like
you're like way under leveled or something.
even full clear Act 1, because right now all the side areas are like, screw that, I'm never doing that.
Yeah,
Full
that,
clear
that might
Act
be
1.
cool too. Doing all the side quests,
Yep.
things like that will be really cool.
All right. Next one's by Only Plays Lee Sin again. At all. When you dual wield wands or daggers, do both of the implicits and the rolls on the wands and daggers apply to the spell, such as Flame Blast and Firestorm? Who wants to take this one? Cricket. Do both implicits
yeah,
apply to
you
the
mean
spell?
like
Yes.
Everything will
like
be
the spell
applied.
damage?
or the crit
Yes.
from?
Everything
Oh
is
yeah,
yes.
Yep, it
It's
does.
all
Yes.
applied.
It's
That's
global.
why you see a lot of racers dual wield scepters or wands on
Yes,
casters.
scepters.
Big time. All right, next question. At Terex, what is the best strat when you get lost in an area like prison? Oh man, I want to know this.
Prison
That's a
in
good question.
particular is just one of those areas. Like my general strat is I like to move along boundaries depending on the area. But when you get to prison, sometimes the exit always isn't along a boundary. So like you can get lost in prison. It's one of the worst areas.
Yeah,
But
that's
what I
ugh.
what I like to do is I just try to run along one boundary until it hits a dead end. And like a lot of the time, if as long as you can keep going along the edge of a map, like it will lead you to the right area, or you'll get a dead end right away. So if you find yourself lost or running around too much, just try to stick with one direction and move along the boundary as much as you can, or like the edge of the map, until you either get to the next area or until you have to backtrack, and then maybe try going like the opposite way. You don't want to like generally run around through the middle of the area, just because in most of the cases the exit is near like a boundary or a wall in the map.
Yeah, I
But
found that works
prison
perfectly for
has
weavers.
prison doesn't. It definitely has like a couple layouts where the exit is in like it's not near a boundary, so that's why prison can be pretty tough to move around.
It's good information. All right, next question.
That question.
Oh, sorry.
That question was from Orsonius.
I'm sorry. I
Thank
keep
you.
forgetting, folks. Slap me around. I'm sorry.
1,000 lashes with a wet noodle.
All right, someone else read it then. I give up. Give up. Next question.
Kale,
We got okay.
anyone? I'm playing an EK Scion, currently 68, and my DPS is only around 2k AoE with no single target spell. I know due to previous characters, I can get my EK to roughly the 5k DPS, but is that viable for late game, like 75 solo maps? Colby, you want to lead that one on?
Let's see. He's just trying to get more damage. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out.
Do you think 5k EK is enough for level 75 map like pulls, like your clear speed and stuff?
I don't know. That sounds kind of low.
Yeah.
I've always known that like EK in general is like really low DPS and only generally good for soloing because of that reason. So I've never actually made an EK character. If I ever did make an EK character, I'd want to make like a crit EK character using the new Immortal Call and cast on damage taken setup, just to have more damage, or do like a cast on crit EK. I feel like self cast EK is just like lacking in a lot of ways in
Even-
comparison to all the other options you can do now. But 5k sounds like it would be kind of rough.
Yeah,
Personally.
it sounds a little low, and I mean, I know with EK it's fairly boring, and running lower DPS it would be even more boring. So I agree with Colby. Having crit, even though it has only a 5% effect, crit chance, it would still be, I think it would have more fun. Or EK with
Yeah.
fork.
I saw a guy playing Spectral Throw, cast on crit EK, and it looks cool because it just shoots out. But whenever you see the guys are doing the,
Yep.
it's like, okay, bro.
No more
Yeah.
EV mom
Pretty
EK,
slow.
please. Let the spec
Yeah.
die. Let it die.
Get cast on crit EK, Spectral Throw at the least, man. Like let that stuff fly out. It's fun.
It used to be
Try it.
strong. It got nerfed though back in beta.
It's still good. It's still good. Oh,
Yeah,
oh wait.
with
Oh,
EK
Mirage.
in
there's
general.
Crit EK
Yeah.
is pretty strong.
Yeah, crit EK can work though. If you, the only reason you wouldn't do it normally is because reflect. But cast on damage taken with a Immortal Call, it's gonna help with most reflect situations.
All right.
That's all I got.
Next question.
Who's next here? You're moving stuff around here. I can't tell. See, Terex Absolutista says, "Do you think that doing the increased percentage spell damage recipe is worth it, or is +1 gems still always better?"
So this is a new recipe actually that they just added in, and it's basically the same as doing the weapon fizz damage recipe, but you need a chain belt, a blacksmith stone, and then your wand, scepter, or dagger. And in my opinion, first off, like for like Fire Trap Ice Nova, you definitely want to get your +1 to gems, but maybe once you're transitioning over to like full-time Ice Nova, depending on once like your gem is a certain level, or you're say like going up to Vaal in Act 2, You might want to craft like a percent spell damage wand just to fully buff your Ice Nova, like once it takes over as your primary ability. So this is it definitely will be viable in races. You just have to use your best judgment or know when you transition over to your one attack for your primary. Whenever you want to switch to like a second weapon to buff your Ice Nova or Fire Trap more. Because +1 to gem at low levels is very, very powerful.
Oh yeah.
So that's going to
Wouldn't you
be
use
like a
both?
judgment call.
You use one in the main hand, the spell damage one for the offhand.
Yeah, use like +1 to gem for say cold gems and have your Ice Nova in your like one hand, and then once you stop using Fire Trap or whatever like Flame Blast in your second wand with +1 to Fire Gem, I think that's when this recipe it'll be very, very effective. So it might not be as effective or useful on say like a 1 hour race when you're mostly using like Fire Trap, Ice Nova, and Chambers, but on a 2 hour when you get to docks and it's mostly just Ice Nova, that's probably when you'll want to use this recipe for your offhand.
All right. Next question was asked by Grado at Hedgie. Do you think Wanderers have enough survivability for invasion? They seem fairly squishy.
By nature, they are very squishy. That's why they're known to be one of those very expensive builds. They're very effective, but as far as on a hardcore league, you need to be prepared with the amount of points that are going to require to scale the damage and to defend against it. I recommend, something like Anders Guile or Block Chance and Running Grace. That those are obviously very powerful tools for a range-based, high damage character. However, it is very, very expensive. So if you can find the items, and that's one of the problems in Invasion is everyone just keeps ripping, the economy keeps resetting, with all these deaths, and the items aren't being found or conjured. So it's very, very hard, but it is doable. If you put enough time into trading, crafting, and flipping, and getting enough currency, it is doable, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you had that kind of resource.
All right. Next question. I really want everyone to answer this, and I want it to be constructive, not mean or anything. Next question is asked by Blawfish. He says, "How is PoE better than Diablo?" This question gets asked all the time by viewers and players, Reddit, everything. I'll answer this one first. It's not better. There's differences that attract more players, in my opinion. The more hardcore players, more players that like enjoy math. I like that PoE. If you want to roll a build, you got to make a new character. Diablo, you just change your skill bar. I like the hardcore aspect. I love the talent calculator. It has a lot of math involved. Diablo has its math as well, but I like GGG. I feel they're very customer oriented. I feel they care more about the gameplay, the game itself, and then they care about the dollar sign afterward. Good. You guys could take the reins.
I was just
Uh,
thinking that I like the long-term aspect of it. It's a good long-term game. And in terms of, I like theory crafting. It's like one of the, I'll sit here for like an hour and just theory craft build. It's fun for me. But I also like Diablo, so I'm not gonna say one's better than the other. I like to go play Diablo for like 30 minutes, but I just like playing this game for a longer amount of time. So it's me.
for me, I feel like the company that's behind it, the development team, we share a similar mindset as far as like diversity, difficulty. I feel like Diablo, although it is an entertaining game, the patches are few and far between. I think they could do a lot better with content patches and balancing changes. PoE, I mean, they are constantly patching the game, every week, and constantly involved in the community. And if I wanted to go talk to the CEO of Blizzard and tell them my ideas, that just wouldn't happen.
See you
And
later, buddy.
GG has been very approachable and very interactive. I think that's one of the best things and one of the reasons why I continue to support them. Will I be playing Diablo in the future? I'll probably play it for some time. I definitely think that Diablo is and Blizzard in general, they make some of the best storylines and cutscenes and I mean it's fun, but I feel like the difficulty it's just too easy. If it was a harder game, I would be able to appreciate it more. Um, but overall, I feel like the difficulty in PoE, the understanding, the whole combination effect is much more thorough and it has more depth. um, which is something I enjoy as like a hardcore gamer.
All right, Terry. I already know what you're gonna say, but do it.
I absolutely love the racing aspect of Poe. Poe to me is a very rewarding game, and like the reward factor on playing Poe and like racing, for example, it's like there's nothing else I've ever played, and like I've played games for like over 14 years, and nothing I've ever played is as rewarding or like keeps me as entertained each day as Path, just because like the difficulty factor. I really like it when you have to like earn your like character to make it like effective, or when you come out with like a new build that's it just seeing it in action and it being like a really good build. It's very rewarding in that sense that like you put it together. Path,
Yeah, a
I
lot of
feel like
investment in that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like definitely. Like I played Diablo 2 for like 6, 7 years growing up, and I feel like Path just has a lot of similar concepts, and then it has like so much more to offer, building like off some of the old Diablo 2 concepts. And for like keeping somebody like pulled into their game and interested in on it, Path has so much to offer for like many different play styles. Whether or not you're like a hardcore player, they have like the 2 hardcore leagues going on at a time, and they also come out with like fresh economy leagues. So if you're into
Yeah.
trading or building up like an economy or stuff like that, they really offer a lot to the player. And GGG, from my experience, is they have always stayed true to their word. Like when
Absolutely.
they like post updates or like they announce something, they're always dead on like to their word, and I really appreciate that as like a player and being passionate about their game.
I love how
So
Chris
that
Wilson, he just appears randomly all the time. Reddit posts, streams. Come on, what
Yeah.
other CEO is gonna do that?
it's awesome
Uh-huh.
to see like their involvement.
Hell yeah. And also, I will say both games are lacking. I know Cutthroat's starting to come out, but we need some PvP. We need some PvP up
Yeah,
in here.
amen to
It's
that.
Woo!
coming. It's coming. So
And
Triple U says, "Hey Terex, what do you think of a race on demand mode, like a practice mode where you have a drop down menu to choose endless ledge and all that other kind of races? And that, how do you think that would be helpful for new players? Do you think that'd be good?
I think it's a really good idea and concept, especially like for new people trying to get into racing, because Endless Ledge and Descent Champions, they're both very difficult like in their own sense. And a lot of the time, depending on like your in real life schedule and like when races are posted, it's not the easiest to make those races to practice on. So I think that would be like a very, very good feature that could actually help introduce a lot more people into racing, is having being able to practice those races. So I'd like to see something like that in the future.
Yeah, I would like to see it as well. I think that'd be very useful and more fair to people that are newer to the game.
Like it'd be good to practice more builds on too, because a lot of people like they're doing races for points, and they might not like take the risk on trying a new build that they're comfortable with. So that can open up like a lot more build options too, being able to practice them on those races.
All right. So, anyone. This is by Unsung Cesspool. Man, that name. All right. How do you feel about streamers, players selling Atziri kills for the first 50 microtransactions? Oh, this question. Should this be allowed, or should there be a microtransaction qualification become illegible because they profit from selling the kill? I think we should all answer this one, and then
All right, I'll kick this one off. Personally, I feel like while it is a great feat to tackle such a boss in such a league where death is imminent and the gearing is very, very, very frustrating and insane, I feel like you're kind of watering down and taking the flavor out of these trophies, which essentially GG creates. And I'm sure if they were trophies that anyone were to have, they would just put it on their microtransaction shop. But they go out of their way to create something cool and unique to give hardcore players an incentive to play and not to essentially buy their kills. So overall, I feel like it's not against the rules. It's perfectly legitimate and there's no rules against it. However, as a community, as a competitive player, I would think you'd want to see as very, few amount of people actually being able to do what you have achieved, and essentially making it, a great feat, like going to the Olympics and carrying somebody on your back, getting a gold medal. I mean, essentially, he just bought it.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
what kind of thing are we saying out of the spirit of competition? I just feel like it's a legitimate way to capitalize and take advantage of the economy. However, I feel like the player has the responsibility and has the integrity to keep the spirit of competition like held up high and the standards up high. That it's a sad thing to see. That's just my opinion on it, though. What are your
My opinion is
opinions?
the same as yours. I'll just piggyback on it real quick. You know, it's supposed to be competitive. It takes away all the competitive edge out of it. You know, you're just buying it. It drives me crazy. It's not against TOS. It's not fair to those people who are like me and Hedgie here. We're like, screw that, and we're going to do it ourselves. You know, and it's the whole rich get richer concept. I hate that. I hate rich getting richer, but that's what it is. Colby.
Well, I mean, the rich get richer, but I mean, essentially, somebody who had no chance has an excellent chance just because he got lucky with the drop,
Exactly.
converted into currency, and that person would have never been able to kill it on his own. But now that this resource is there,
Oh, I found the
something that was
mirror.
unattainable, yeah, something that was unattainable before is now attainable and realistic. That's it's not so much the rich get richer. I mean, rich are always going to get richer. They know how to play the game. They know how to make currency. That's not really so much the problem as like the people that couldn't kill it on their own are finding ways to kill it and earn that trophy that kind of like destroying the symbolism of that item.
All right, what do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, it sucks for people who are trying to build specifically to do Atziri. They're doing the strategies, but it's also you could also argue that it is another strategy to make a build that just farms currency to wait for the person who is selling those, and then you have the most currency to buy, and that's your strategy for doing Atziri, not actually doing the fight yourself. But yeah, it's not really like competitive in that sense. But you could also argue that that's the strategy that you had all along was you're just gonna sit there and farm piety and get like 100 exalts while waiting for the person to to sell that kill, and then you're like, all right, this is what I was waiting for. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think
that
it
possible?
definitely defeats the purpose of like having a reward for like being one of the first 50 to kill the boss, because in a sense you're not really earning it. Like you're just like paying for a title, or like paying for, like in this case, the cosmetic. Like it definitely should be something where like the player should take the responsibility and earn it themselves, or like you said, you're competing against other people to like obtain this prize. So like competition wise, it's I don't know, I really disagree with that like kind of play, I guess.
All right, so
Okay.
that is our last question for the Q&A. We're about to turn down the podcast, but before we do, there's a couple things we got to do. First, I'll talk about the 8 microtransactions that were donated by GGG. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for allowing us to even discuss this kind of meta. We're going to be doing this again every 2 weeks. I'm going to stick to it. It'll definitely always be me, Colby, Hedgie. Terex, you're more than welcome to come back whenever. You provide so much useful information to viewers, and heck, even me. I want you guys to vote
Appreciate it.
who you guys want for the next one, and you can all go on his stream and be like, listen here, sucker, you need to get on that podcast. So Mano, Hellman, whoever you guys want, let us know. Seriously. Constructive feedback. Podcasts, of course, there's always hiccups along the way. Whatever you guys think we need to do to improve it, let us know. Anybody stream, we're open to it. Lastly, for those microtransaction giveaways, hang tight. When we take down the podcast, it's mainly so we can make a nice clip of it. It's easier. We're lazy. And so we can upload it to YouTube. Expect this to go onto Colby Cheese's YouTube right away. And then maybe like a week or two later, me and Hedgie will definitely upload it to his. I want to also give a thank you to Twitch TV. I want to give a thank you to, again, GGG. You guys are awesome. And all of our viewers. Thank you guys, all 1,000 of you. So I appreciate it.
Oh, very nice.
Thanks for tuning
I
in.
amazing.
want to throw a special shout out for Jenny. She's the artist and person responsible for our awesome overlay. If Zeno, you'd be so kind to give out her Twitter and her DeviantArt. If you guys want, if you like her art and you want her to do some work for you, she'd be glad to do so. Go ahead.
It's what is it? Baka hot dogu.
I'll type it in chat. It's
Colby's gonna type it in chat.
Baka hot dog. Let me double.
And I would just like to quickly say that everybody watching, that you guys are truly amazing. Like, it means a lot that people support the streamers on Poe and support GGG. Like, you guys are absolutely the best. So
We
thanks a
want-
lot, everybody, for coming in and watching.
We wouldn't be here if it weren't for you guys. Seriously. We all bow down. Even Oscar, he ran away. He says thanks. So, I'm taking